You're listening to the Visionary Lifestyle Podcast, the show that's dedicated to raising consciousness and empowering you to activate your highest potential. I'm your host, Magda Freedom Rod. Greetings, Rainbow Warriors. I'm coming to you today from Provence, France, and sadly, this is my last day here. This American visa situation is really hindering my European travel goals. Why can't we just live in a world without borders, right? One world, people, one love, one world. Are you with me? But alas, on this yogic path, it's one day at a time, one breath at a time, and by the grace of God, go I. It's all yoga. So now I need to exit Schengen for a month so I can come back for the month of September, when I'll be offering a retreat in Sicily, Italy, and in the second week of September, and then offering some workshops and speaking at the DNX Global Digital Nomad Festival in Lisbon at the end of the month. Check out my Visionary Lifestyle and Podcast Facebook page for details on these events, and check the show notes here for a discount code for the DNX Global Conference. As it turns out, being a yoga teacher is one of those jobs you can do on the road while traveling. And boy, do I have a hallelujah for that. So now about today's show. Today's guest is David Lurey. I really enjoyed this conversation with this passionate and experienced teacher of yoga, true and transformational yoga. David is an experienced 500-hour Yoga Alliance certified yoga teacher. He was introduced to yoga in 1996 as a way to tone his body and relieve work-related stress. Using those as a foundation for building an asana practice, the other limbs of Patanjali's Ashtanga yoga began to unfold, leading him to the path of teaching transformational yoga. David lives in Palma de Mallorca, Spain, co-creating courses and trainings to open consciousness and vitality with his beloved wife, Miriam Wagner. David takes students through opening and often challenging asanas while encouraging the magical power of breath and mental stillness to cultivate the true loving nature of the heart. This appears in several styles of yoga that David shares in his teachings. Mindful spirited vinyasa with attention to the physiology, anatomy, and alignment of the poses combined with energetic presence. Acro yoga for building connection, trust, and communication between humans. Green yoga as a journey and exploration to connect to the planet, cosmos, and all the non-human beings on Earth. David's bhakti practice takes form mostly in the singing of kirtan and mantras, but is also connected to acts of kindness and being of service. In addition to teaching asana classes, David brings a heartfelt passion for music and singing into all of his programs. He's recorded 3 CDs and performed countless events where music, community, and singing come together in ecstatic bliss. I met David at the Barcelona Yoga Conference last summer. I took his class and knew instantly that he has a lot of valuable information to share. I was so happy we got the time to sit and have this conversation so he could share a fraction of his vast yogic wisdom with you. He goes into Santosha and tapas, which is exactly the yoga I'm called to practice when I look at my visa situation and being forced to leave the Schengen territory. I'm practicing both sides of the two-sided coin that David mentioned, and you'll have to listen to the show to get what I mean. As usual, you can find David's contact information in the show notes on visionary-lifestyle.com/podcast. And make sure you're following me on Instagram to see the behind-the-scenes stories of my travel adventures around the world. That's at visionary_lifestyle_guide. And now, without further ado, we're on to today's show. I just know that you're going to find lots of wisdom and inspiration in this one. Enjoy and namaste. David Lurey, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yay, we are at the Barcelona Yoga Conference, a couple of Americans in Spain.
Yes.
How exciting.
Yes.
And you're teaching here, and that's exciting.
Yes, this is my 6th time at the
Oh,
Barcelona
wow, is
Yoga
it?
Conference. I know the organizers. It's a wonderful family, so
Yeah.
I've been connected with them since they got started.
I'm really impressed with this festival. I love that they have the kirtan vibe going in the middle all the time, and that, that's not all yoga festivals have that piece, and when they don't, I feel like that's really missing. So I'm appreciating this. It's nice and intimate. It's not too big. It's not too small. It's just right.
Yeah.
So you've been teaching 17 years, you said?
Yes.
Right?
17.
And that's a long time. And that falls under, you said, primarily under the umbrella of
Vinyasa yoga.
right?
Yes.
And that's a big umbrella, and so there's a lot of different things that you teach. But I just wanted to say that how much I appreciate the class that I came to yesterday, the pranayama in yoga, and how you started it with the physical postures, the asana, opening up the body to prepare to breathe, and then sitting us down and teaching us several different techniques, all in a short amount of time. Like, you delivered a lot of information.
It's true.
Yeah, and a lot of tools, and I was grateful for that.
Thank you.
It's a special approach to see them together, pranayama and yoga. So you had mentioned to me about how you teach all the 8 limbs.
Yes, yeah, because for the purpose of the schedule and the things, and for a definition, I call what I teach Vinyasa yoga, because I would really love to be able to say that I teach Patanjali Ashtanga yoga as the 8-limbed path towards our self-realization and liberation. And as I was taught them from a variety of my teachers, they go together in pairs, and so asana and pranayama are inherently linked together. That poses prepare you for breathing, and the breathing facilitate the posture work. Much in the same way that the first 2 limbs of yama and niyama, our ethics and our values with ourself and our others, come first, and they go together. And then the asana and the pranayama, I teach them quite often combined together. And then pratyahara and dharana, the next 2 steps, turning the senses inwards to bring the mind into a single point of awareness. They go very much together in all different styles of yoga. And then the last 2 steps of meditation, and I like to refer to samadhi as super consciousness.
Super consciousness.
Yes.
And how do you teach samadhi?
I do my best to teach samadhi as a way of being, that rather than being a destination, because modern society is very goal-oriented, to be more on the acceptance and allowing side of things. That samadhi is a state that we are already in, but due to our human condition, we have forgotten. So the recognition that all of our patterns and habits and the things that self-help gurus love to preach about, and I myself am totally addicted to improving myself, can just accept some of the things about myself, and then I drop into the state of samadhi. I am a being of divine bliss. Having a human experience, so I need my ethics and my values. I need the poses and the breathing. I do the work of not being distracted by the external world to focus my mind so that I remember I am a divine being having a human experience. It's a constant loop.
Right, and this is why we call yoga a practice.
Yes,
Because
very much so.
Life gives us so much opportunity to be distracted and to remember and come back to center.
Yes, in the class that you took with me on Friday, we did 7 different breathing techniques, but each of them for 5 minutes each.
Right.
And to bring modern humans into 5 minutes of concentration on breathing takes a lot of effort. I'll tell you, having led the class, my eyes are open and I'm watching the students and seeing what's going on. About half of the group was really able to concentrate and focus with some very ambient music, with me as the teacher. I'm not taking responsibility for it, but like reminding and constantly using my voice and tips to stay focused. But 5 minutes to our mind sounds like nothing, but in reality, concentration for 5 minutes in modern era is a big mountain to climb.
Yeah, it's a big deal when you accomplish it.
Yes,
right? Yeah.
yes.
And so, what are the benefits of us doing this? I mean, it's pranayama even specifically?
I used to spout a lot of things like this, and I have learned recently to speak from my own experience. That for me, being able to sit and concentrate on my breathing calms down my nervous system drastically, because I'm a pitta, fiery, active, Mediterranean-blooded, American guy.
Yeah.
And so to calm down and do breathing techniques helps a lot with calming down my nervous system, which slows down my speaking, which allows me to look people in the eye more and be a better listener. In my postural work, it allows me to refine and fine-tune poses of where energy might be stuck and blocked. And those are some of the benefits that I've experienced. And it also, I don't know if I can say that it has helped focus my mind, because I'm still as crazy as the next guy.
Great. We all got to have a little edge of crazy.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with
yes.
that. Let's not be normal.
No.
Let's not. And we talked a little bit earlier about tapas. And where does that fit in? And what is tapas?
Yes, tapas is a positive relationship to discipline. The word discipline is a lot like God. It's a really loaded word for many people, because discipline, because of whatever people have been through in their life, it's a tough school marm or a military person or something, the police that have had to put you in discipline in a forcibly way. But when discipline can have a positive relationship, it's the work that needs to be done to support our evolution. But it also has another side to it. It's like a coin, and the other side of tapas or discipline is santosha, contentment. So we take a moment and pause, and actually contentment comes first. Here I am in this moment, the world is as it is, as politically, socially, economically crazy as it is, we accept it. And then the coin flips and the tapas says, okay, but there can be improvements to the way that we relate as humans, to the way that the politicians distribute economic wealth, to hospital and welfare and human recognition, and stop dropping bombs on people's heads and things like this. So there is work that can be done to create a more peaceful environment. And at the same time, we have to say, the work that is to be done comes from this place where we are, acceptance and discipline. So yoga is a discipline of, a teacher of mine used to say, constant conscious inner practice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let that one sink in. Constant
conscious inner practice.
Constant conscious inner practice. Yes, that's a good nugget. I love this. Okay.
Thank you.
And how did yoga find you, or how did you find yoga?
It was in 1995, and I had just moved to San Francisco, California, and working as a corporate cuff tugger, climbing the ranks of the Hyatt Hotel Corporation. And I was a food and beverage manager in San Francisco, and there was a wonderful guy named Jamie Lindsay, and I was a 21-year-old manager at the time, and he was an employee of mine. I think he was around 28 or 29 at the time, and everyone else was in their 40s and old, ragged union employees that just wanted to fight the management. And one day Jamie came up to me and he said, "Hey man, I'm doing a yoga teacher training program, and my teacher asked me to find someone who could use a yoga class and who's never done it before. You want to try?" I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll give it a shot." So I went to the studio called It's Yoga in San Francisco, which still exists. It's the home of the Rocket, a power yoga sequence. And Jamie taught me the Rocket. And it was the total cliche thing. I lie down in Shavasana, and there are the bells and the whistles and the lights and the rainbows and the angels and the unicorns. And when I came up, I said, "Wow, this is something powerful." It was kind of like I was listening to the signs, the powers that be. And so then I started practicing regularly at It's Yoga in the morning, and then working in the hotel at night, until the yoga really screwed everything up, and I quit my job, and I realized that this was not my path. I found some work in technology, building databases for hotels and restaurants. So I was doing my office job in the daytime and then going to yoga at night. And then the yoga started to work even more. And I said, hang on a second, I don't want to be tied to my computer and sitting behind here taking help calls and building databases, blah, blah, blah. And that was in middle of 2000. And when I quit that job, Larry said to me, so now what are you going to do? I said, I'm not really sure. He said, teacher training starts in September. You should sign up. So I did.
And this was after how long of practicing?
I had started in 95, so about 5 years of practicing, yeah.
Wow. So your path really kind of lit up before you. It sounds
did,
like.
Yes.
And I like how you say the yoga screwed everything up.
Yes.
And now look at you.
Yeah.
Did it really screw everything up?
You know,
for the moment, right?
From the perspective of, let's say, my grandparents, yes. My parents have been very supportive along the way. When I quit the hotel job, they said, well, I mean, we've sent you to university, you have a degree in hotel management, what are you going to do? I said, I really don't know, but I'm not happy. And so my parents then said, well, as much as it hurts us to, you know, they're good Jewish parents, well, it's going to hurt us that you don't put your education to use, but we want you to be happy. And so I found this other job. I was working half as much and getting paid twice as much with the technology.
Yeah.
And then the same thing, a couple years later, I wasn't happy. I called them. I said, I'm quitting the job. They said, again? I said, but I'm not happy. They said, well, this is what we want for you, to be happy. So they were wonderful role models in that to follow the path in life that brings me joy.
And are you happy now?
Totally.
With a big smile on your face. I wish this was on video all of a sudden.
Yes.
Yeah, so yoga is a path to happiness, don't you think?
This is a loaded question.
Okay.
Because yoga can support happiness, and yoga is a facilitator of joy in our lives. But this is something that Miriam, my wife, and we teach often, that yoga is not only rainbows and unicorns and joy and happiness. Yoga is also being pissed off and being sad and being angry, because yoga is opening up to life itself. And if we are only rainbows and unicorns and happiness, we miss out on a lot of depth in life. And we are big teachers and believers that some of my greatest teachers have come from the dark shadow places, because I have to admit, I've had a really good life. I was born into a wonderful family. We have our own issues, but life has been quite generous to me. And so I have a lot of happiness and I have a lot of joy. And so I have to either be pushed or pulled or turned towards my shadow pattern, darker sides to really grow. And I've taken a lot of courses that do that, and I have a lot of people in my life. Again, I have to be pushed in that direction to surround myself with people that either point out my dark side or I have conflict with, and those are good teachers of mine.
Fantastic. So you and your wife teach together sometimes, right?
Mostly. Our teacher trainings we do together. We also need to keep our own separate things, because she's a wonderful yin, nurturing, divine goddess, and I'm a powerful, vibrant,
fiery pitta man.
Yes, yeah. So we balance each other this way.
Yeah, that's beautiful, actually, from the Ayurvedic perspective, right?
True.
That's
yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love that. So you're teaching. What is it that you're offering? And where?
Our main courses is our 4-week Vinyasa yoga training program in South Brazil at a place called Montanha Encantada, the Enchanted Mountain. And 2018 will be our 10th year doing the teacher training. And it's an immersion into all things yoga. The focus of the asana is Vinyasa style. And we do a lot of anatomy, integrated philosophy, singing every day, a lot of stirring the emotional pot with interactive group experiences. We do a lot of mixing and matching, putting people in different groups and asking questions and homework assignments together, because to us this is where we develop as yoga teachers, is learning to have empathy and compassion for other people. And if you have to do an exercise with someone who we could say is vibrationally incompatible, then you develop yourself as a teacher and as a human. So that course is kind of, it's my baby. I developed it 10 years ago with a lot of components of different interpersonal work, transformational work. When I lived in San Francisco, I was a transformational junkie, taking the Landmark Forum and Arate course and the Hoffman process and things like this, putting things together. And then bringing yoga into place there. And but Miriam, having met her, she's become an integral part of that course. And then our advanced trainings, we lead them in Mallorca and Ibiza. Those are, we call them a balanced approach yin and yang practices.
Perfect.
And we will always take some yogic component and some anatomic physical focus and put them together. So in October of 2017 we are doing the 5 elements, yin and yang practices, and then our other modules we do like pranayama in the respiratory system, or the digestive system in bhakti yoga, or the physical body with applied philosophy. And so we bring a balanced approach to these things, because modern postural yoga has kind of taken over and become a scene. It's become almost, let's say, very dogmatic in its way. I come from a strong alignment-based asana practice, and Miriam, as an osteopath and as a yin teacher and as a juicy flowing woman, has opened my mind a lot to the difference in bone structure, the difference in life experience, and what that does to our asana practice. So I've adapted quite a bit thanks to her this way.
Wow, beautiful.
Yes.
So these trainings that you do, are they like workshops, or are they full, like how long are they?
Yeah, the advanced trainings are 2-week-long modules.
Okay.
And they're intense. They are teacher trainings. Wow. It's part of the 300-hour Yoga Alliance certified program. So we structure them. We love putting our courses together because it involves asana work, applied philosophy, anatomy, and group experience. Everything we do has all of those things involved, because that's what we believe develops great teachers, and how to work together and lead groups is our focus.
Beautiful. And the kirtan is a big part of
so
your
those
offering,
are the
music.
training pieces of it. I, as a musician, I come from Asheville, North Carolina, is my hometown, and so I play acoustic guitar and I love singing folk songs and things. A lot of Bob Dylan and Paul Simon. Yesterday in my kirtan at Barcelona conference, I opened with Like a Rolling Stone, which was really fun, and so the music is always a piece of everything that we do. And I love teaching at conferences and festivals, and my personality is very inclined towards being in the center of attention, and Miriam is a little more private in that way. So I go out and teach at a lot of conferences and festivals in the summer, and she does more introspective individual work. It's like she's the micro and I'm the macro in that way. And when we come together, our groups have both of the same.
Right.
And so we both travel and teach workshops independently. We don't so much do our workshops together. It's mostly the trainings that we come together.
Okay.
And we also have retreats, which are like yoga holidays, and we do those mostly in Mallorca, and we do those together. But really, really like a holiday. A morning class, an evening class, and the rest go to the beach, go for a hike, chill out by the pool.
When are those?
Those are usually in April and October in Mallorca.
Yummy.
Yes.
I can't wait to get to Mallorca. That's next on my list, actually. I'm going to be
you
over
will
there soon.
enjoy it a lot, I'm sure.
Yeah. So how is it as an American teaching abroad? Is everybody appreciating that you speak English, or do you find that you need to develop the different languages, or?
Yeah, I've been teaching internationally since 2005. I remember the first international class, actually it was 2004 in Brazil, and I had a translator in the class. And ever since then I've been working with translators in Agora eu falo português brasileiro, and I learned Portuguese through the translators. And teaching with the translator requires you to slow down and teach simply.
Yeah.
And over my years as a teacher, I have really learned, and I would even say proved, that simple done well is far more effective than being lost in complexity, which a lot of modern postural yoga is about. Circus poses and wild, crazy things, and I love those poses, and I like to teach them, but delivered in a clear, simple way. And so, in my travels, those of you listening, you can probably hear that right now, I feel like I'm speaking quicker because I'm talking to an American, and I tend to get involved, and I can speak quicker when I know someone whose native language is that. But I consciously speak at a slower level. I think now I subconsciously speak slower because it's been about 10 years now that I haven't lived in the States.
That makes sense.
And I teach and I talk much slower. I enunciate my words. Pau, the organizer of Barcelona Yoga Conference, says, oh, when we go to a David Lurey class, it's going to be very pedagogic, and you're going to enunciate every vowel, and you'll hear everything very clearly. And I think that's supported me in getting invited to a lot of the international conferences. But there's also something very interesting. There's a wonderful phrase that says, you can never be a prophet in your own land. So when I was in San Francisco, I was one of 100 California guys, although I'm a North Carolina guy, but like a California dude with the guitar and the vinyasa flow, and the groovy soundtrack and this and this. And I remember the first class I taught in Brazil, I took my guitar and we sang Hare Krishna at the beginning of the class. And I had a playlist of groovy down-tempo music, and we all sang at the end of the class, and the people came up and they said, whoa, they had never really experienced the California vinyasa style before, and it was really groundbreaking for them back then.
Wow.
And then I started, my first introduction to teaching in Europe was in 2005, 2006, and it was the same thing. And the places where I teach and taught back then had a big expat community, but also in places where bi and multilingual people were coming. But I learned to speak slowly, and I learned to speak in a way that people can understand me. And so this has been a big tool that my teaching has educated my life, that speak in a way that people can understand you, and teach in a way that's digestible for everybody. And now I speak Spanish and Portuguese. I can understand quite a bit of German and French, and because now I know which words cross over, though that's where my vocabulary rests, in the crossover words.
I love that. I'm finding that too, you know, like when I was just in France, and when I speak French and I say to people, you know more French than you realize, because so many of the words are the same.
Yes.
And in Spanish as well, but I find more so in French actually than in Spanish.
But they have all those extra letters in French.
Yes, it's true, but it's just the pronunciation is different in most cases.
Yes.
You know, and then
totally
you just learn, you don't pronounce the last letter, but it's like meditation, you know, it's like the same word. So French is not as difficult as most people think.
Yes,
But I dream of teaching more in Europe, and I'm trying to figure out, you know, how that all works, and if I need to speak English. I like the idea of being that eccentric California kind of almost stereotype / eccentric, you know, person that just by being who I am, I'm interesting to them, you know, to potential clientele or whatever.
Yeah.
So. It's
true.
Yeah.
And because I kind of was in the right place at the right time in the European scene. I started teaching around here 2005, 6, and 7 were my first couple tours, and that was really the first of the boom here in Europe. So in that way, it's I got to ride the bubble. And then in 2007, I was first invited to Mallorca, and that's where I met Miriam, who I've been talking about is now my wife.
Right, and then you stayed there?
The beginning of our relationship took a little while to take hold because I was a gypsy single male traveling yoga teacher, and she was a single mother, Taurus Swiss woman living on an island. So we came from very different places, but eventually love conquers all.
Oh, so what a sweet story. I love it. Okay, so what advice would you give to a new yogi or somebody who's feeling called to this path?
As a practitioner or as a teacher?
Well, what would a teacher's advice to a new student be?
Teacher's advice to a new student would be build a positive relationship to discipline, as I mentioned before with tapas.
Since we're in Spain.
And be
tapas.
okay with the way things are, santosha. and let those two aspects balance each other. That especially I guess to younger generations or any generations in modern times, we're looking for the quick fix. And yoga is not that. Yoga is a long-term prescription. There will be initial breakthroughs along the way that the body opens up when you build a new relationship to your breathing. Your body, your mind, and your spirit can communicate in a different way. Life presents itself in different ways or you could say you could interpret life in different ways with a new relationship to your breath. And have discipline to steady the path. Commit to at least a year of consistent practice. And I'm not talking about daily practice because this is a non-realistic goal. For me, the last 17 years, my discipline is not going more than 3 days in a row without a practice. And this is a good relationship to discipline. And let your practice, go to classes, find good teachers. And this is another thing with advice for new students is find a few teachers, one that nurture you and care for you and give you a good feeling, and find a couple teachers that challenge you in the right way. Because you want to find the areas that you can grow, and sometimes the nurturing ones won't show you there. A lot of beginning teachers are afraid to hold the mirror very close.
Yeah, interesting. That's great advice. And going back to Barcelona for a second, I'm trying to, I'm exploring here, like what is the yoga scene like in Barcelona? And from what I've heard so far, and I'm interested in your perspective on this, is what is the yoga scene in Barcelona? From what I've heard, it's been about 20 years. Over the about last 20 years, it's become a lot stronger.
Yes.
Right? And it's now exploding kind of like everywhere, I guess.
For sure.
Right?
Yes.
Is that what you're finding too?
Yeah. In Barcelona, I only know secondhand gossip.
Oh, right.
Because I live in Palma, which. But I can tell you this: that the people that I do know who are teachers here, we have people that have done our teacher training that live here, that are starting as teachers here. As in most urban environments, it's competitive. That there is a fear of lack of students, and that, which is totally untrue, by the way, because this is a city of 1 million plus people, and there are more than enough students. It's just a matter of the right teachers finding the right students and vice versa.
It's a marketing issue.
Yeah, packaging, packaging, and so it is a bit competitive. And in urban places, if teaching yoga is your only source of income, you have to teach a lot.
Right.
Like upwards of 8 to 10 classes, studio classes, private classes, just to pay the bills and cover it. So as I always recommend a second income stream if there's a way to do this. Whether it's another job as anything that's out there. Always supportive in terms of getting your foot on the ground, or if you're independently wealthy, then teach full time and thank God every day. Om Namo Lakshmi Ki Jai. Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
One other thing about the Barcelona scene, though, is that in particular in Spain, different than other parts of Europe, it has been very insulated in that modern vinyasa flow, we could say popular culture yoga, modern postural yoga is a fairly new thing. That they've had Hatha yoga, they've had Shivananda yoga, Iyengar, and even to some extent Ashtanga practice for quite some time. And the Spaniards they take a little bit longer to open up to new things.
Interesting.
As a personal opinion. I'll put that out there.
Observation.
Yeah, observation.
Okay, yeah, interesting. And I wonder, because part of my mission with this podcast is to educate people about the 8 limbs, essentially, the 8 limb path. So it's beyond, as you're calling it, the physical postures or postural yoga, which is the 3rd limb, the asana, which is as we know, I mean, just worldwide, exploding into this, it's kind of like a fitness phenomenon, right?
Yeah, it's also why I started yoga. So I don't poo-poo on it. You know, and when I was a child, I used to love McDonald's fish fillet of fish and French fries, and to me this was food. And then eventually my mother introduced me to, well, I was eating them for a while, but then I started to like her homemade falafel and hummus and you know, and then you eventually learn that there are differences between modern postural yoga, that's a fitness-based practice, and even an asana-based practice that has other limbs involved in it.
Yeah, I think it's valuable. I mean, that it's exploding the way it is, because it's getting people to the path. You know, I think the majority, it seems, the majority of people who are showing up to yoga is for the fitness element or maybe stress reduction, which is fine. However you get there, just get there.
Yes,
right?
Totally.
I'm glad that you brought up food. What's your view on food now, the yogi diet? Do you have any strong opinions on this subject?
Eat the right thing that's right for you. I am a plant-based flexitarian, self-coined.
Okay.
And I've kind of explored a lot of different things. Over years, I was a very hardcore vegetarian. I experimented a little bit with being a vegan, but my mother is a chef, and I'm a slave to pleasure. And I'll admit it right here to the world, or whoever the world that listens to the podcast. And so I never went pure vegan. I'm well aware of the consequences of my actions, that modern dairy farming is not nice to cows, so I do my best to shop consciously. Living on Mallorca, it's quite easy. There's a lot of ecological and biological products that we can get there. And we live on an island, and I eat fish caught from the fishermen. And if someone wants to judge me for taking the suffering of an animal into my body, then that's the opinion that they have, and I'm not here to change anybody's mind on it, because my body feels better when I have that.
Okay.
Yes.
And so on Mallorca, there's a lot of there's organic, it's called bio here, right?
Yes, it is, yeah.
So there's a lot of bioagriculture,
a lot
of food
organic
growing on the island.
Yes, in Mallorca, and grass-fed cattle and animal products are very popular in Mallorca right now, and all of Europe. It's the tide is really shifting here. I haven't lived in the States in a long time, and when I did live there, I knew that Whole Foods and different co-ops and things existed, but they were also a little more on the fringe. And of course, the last time I lived in the States, I was in San Francisco, so it's a bubble.
Right.
Totally. And the other place where I go home now is to Asheville, North Carolina, which is a bubble as well. And organic food is everywhere, and ecological this, and dairy, whatever. You can find anything to fit your lifestyles there.
Right. So do you think Mallorca is a bubble?
No, I think Mallorca is part of the growing European culture towards sustainable organic lifestyle.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
That's nice to know.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for your time. I know you have other things to be getting to right now,
No problem.
And you're very sweet. And I appreciated the pranayama class that I went to, and then the yin class that you did with your wife this morning. You did the music, and she taught the yoga.
Serenades.
Yes, you serenaded us, and it was really a perfect Sunday morning practice. So I really thank you and acknowledge you for the gifts that you're sharing, and how you've stepped into your power as a yoga teacher and a happy person, on the yogic path, and here sharing your gifts and doing what you can to share yoga with the world, because I guess you and I probably agree that this is a solution to personal and planetary woes in
we
general.
can agree on that for sure.
Thank you so much, David.
You're
it's
welcome.
Great meeting you. Namaste.
My pleasure. Namaste.
Thanks so much for answering the call to be here today. I'm so glad you're part of our tribe of activated rainbow warriors. If you found the show in any way empowering or inspiring, I would be so grateful if you would share the show on social media or with friends and family that you think would benefit from these conversations. And also, rate and review the show in iTunes. This is really the very best way to help support the show and help us get noticed by others who are looking for the sort of content that we're sharing. Now notice there are no outside ads playing here. That's because the show is supported by you, the listener. You can become a patron of the show with a small monthly donation by checking out the perks on our Patreon page at patreon.com/visionary lifestyle and signing up there. There's also a one-time donation button on the podcast page of the website if that suits you better. And just so you know, your donations help to cover the necessary out-of-pocket monthly expenses to produce the show and will also help us grow so we can inspire and educate even more people. And hey tribe, I'd love to hear from you. Visit me at visionary-lifestyle.com and please tell me your comments and questions. I really look forward to connecting with you. I love you. Namaste.